Hey, it's Sela Social Studies.
All right, guys, here we go. This is going to be your review for Chapter 14, Immigration and Urbanization. Make sure you have your note sheet in front of you. What is abolition, right? That's the people trying to get rid of slavery. Reform is going ahead and trying to, make things better, improve life. So the first things that we were hitting up were Irish and German immigration, right? So how many immigrants came to America? Remember, during this time, there's about 4.5 million immigrants that came to America. You're talking about mostly Irish and German immigrants. Where did they come from? Just named it. Two biggest immigrant groups came from. Okay, got that as well. What pushed the Irish out of Ireland? Remember that big potato famine that they had in Ireland? Pushed them out of there to come over here to America. When they got here, they took a lot of unskilled factory labor jobs in the cities, as well as digging canals. The Germans got pushed over here because of political problems, economic problems in Germany. And when they came over here, they did some skilled labor and they also had some money. So they were able to buy some farmland in the West and do some farming. Were they welcome? Heck no, they were not welcome. A lot of people, these nativists, came in, those people who are opposed to immigration, people who favor people from their own country, have all these big signs. Remember, no Irish need apply. They actually create the Know Nothing Party that is against immigration. Do we have these problems today? Yeah, we do kind of have these problems today. Let's think about what we could uh, compare it to. 2016, during a presidential election, now current President Trump had said that he was going to build a wall between Mexico because they were taking jobs, right? So that was one of the reasons. We can go into the others, but it has nothing to do with immigration and reform, what we're doing here. So he was saying that Mexicans were coming in here taking American jobs, so this would stop that. So yeah, we do kind of have still that going on today in 2019. In these cities, we have what we call political machines, groups of people that are corrupt, that will do anything to try to get their people into politics and control the politics. This would be at city, county, state, and federal governments. One of the biggest ones that we had was Tammany Hall in New York City, which was ran by a guy named William Boss Tweed. They would do things like bribe people, stuff ballot boxes. A guy would go in with a full beard and a hat and vote, and then remove the hat, shave half the beard and vote, and then just leave a mustache and vote, and then shave the mustache off and vote, and you'd have 4 votes for one guy. It was really, really corrupt. They would even threaten and actually take physical violence upon people, and they were really against immigrants. All right, so this is why this kind of ties in right now. So immigration during 1840 and 1860, the Irish, German, they were not very welcome, even though millions of them came over here. Urbanization. So where did these people move to, especially the Irish? They moved to the slums in the cities, right? So they moved from farmlands out west. They moved to cities. The Irish came over. They moved to cities. And when they lived in these cities, they moved to the slums because they were poor. They couldn't afford a really nice apartment or anything like that. Only those mercantile trading people in the city and the business owners can afford the nice areas. Unfortunately, most Americans could not. So they lived in these things called tenement buildings. Remember the picture of the tenement buildings? Overcrowded. The atmosphere was gross. The air stunk. They had rats in the room. It was disgusting. Overcrowded, like 15 people per room sometimes. They didn't have a bathroom in there. They had to go in a bucket and dump it out the window. All right. So it was really, really bad. They moved into these dumbbell tenements. And because of this type of immigration or migration to cities, they had problems like crime, a lot of crime in the cities because so many people, you were kind of just a number. So many people were poor. They needed stuff from other people. So they stole it, they killed, they robbed. Okay. And diseases would really run rampant throughout the cities because so many people were jammed in such a small area. And all these people moving to the cities and getting these jobs ultimately throughout the 1860s and beyond, it really causes the emergence of the middle class. What started a new reform movement? That's called the Second Great Awakening, based on religion, Christianity. And here's what people were fighting for. Horace Mann was fighting for better education and better schools. Women wanted to ban the consumption of hard liquor because their husbands would go home and do things like hit them and stuff. So they wanted to ban hard liquor, called temperance. Dorothea Dix would fight for prison reform and help for the mentally ill. Prior to Dorothea Dix fighting for this, mentally ill people, if you had a disability, you were placed in a jail with a murderer. So that wasn't fair. She saw that wasn't fair. Even if you were a child with a disability of some kind, you were placed in jail with a murderer, and that was not right. So she really fought for that. Then we get into the abolitionists. Abolitionists, like we said, somebody who tried to get rid of slavery. William Lloyd Garrison wrote The Liberator, which spoke out against slavery. Frederick Douglass was a former slave who, at the age of 21, escaped to the North, and then throughout the 1840s really spoke around the United States against slavery. Sojourner Truth was another former slave. She was born into slavery, and she went and spoke around about against slavery, and she believed it was God who told her that it was her job to do that. We had the Underground Railroad, which was that secret passageway of houses where people like Harriet Tubman, the big conductor of the Underground Railroad, would take people from house to house overnight and put them in abolitionist home, so the next night they can go ahead and travel even further north or out west to escape slavery. And then we had some guy who really took it in his hands to escape slavery, Henry Box Brown. Henry Box Brown was that guy who took himself and packed himself into a little crate and literally mailed himself from Virginia to Philadelphia for his freedom. The last thing we talked about was women's rights. We had the Grenke sisters, Sarah and Angelina Grenke, fought for women's rights, equal rights in particular. And then Elizabeth Cady Stanton organized the Seneca Falls Convention, which was a really convention about abolitionism and women's rights. They called for equal rights at the Seneca Falls Convention. They wrote the Seneca Falls Declaration, which was based upon the Declaration of Independence, saying that all men and women should be created equal. And all while we're at this, the Seneca Falls Convention, a lady named Susan B. Anthony was fighting for suffrage for women, which happens to be voting for women, which actually doesn't really pass until 1920 with the 19th Amendment of women being able to vote. That's everything that we went over in Chapter 14. Good luck on your test. I know you'll do great.